Okay guys, we're back at the start of the season. There's a new law change, new cadences that are going to come in from the scrum, new tempos to what we're doing, and interpretation from the referee that will see us go into reacting to the ball coming in if we anticipate the interpretation the way that we feel it's going to happen. When that ball comes in, we need to be into a good squeeze body profile that we can react to the ball coming in, and if we want to put our little chase of 2, 3, 4 numbers after it, or we want to strike and lock and hold, hit channel 1 and have number 8s picking up and running down the field, they're the expectations we'll have from this new scrummage. So we're here with the Scrum Zone machine again, and what we want to do is remind ourselves of the way that we're going to adapt to these new law changes, but also remind ourselves of what we built on last season when we used this apparatus as well. And we're going to address and talk about the things that we felt were going wrong last season with body profile and foot positions, and in particular the effect of the hinge effect in the scrum. So where we had 2 front rows engaging together and the pressure between them, the up and down forces, and this hinge effect where their feet were being lost grip and the scrum was going down. And we want to address why we think that hinge effect is happening. So that's going to be the first part of the session, and then we'll build a front row and build a technique ready for the back 5 to join the party. Okay, so let's have a look at the scrummage machine. Hydraulics going to be pushing us back, going to be snap shoving, putting all sorts of challenge. So this is just like a scrummage machine, a scrum coming at you. It's going to react, it's going to snap shove. It's not a static sled that's going to hold you up and support your weight and just be a static force. It's going to fight back. There are lots of machines, roller machines, that don't use hydraulics, and they've got the ability to use the bungee systems. But what's happened over the last couple of years of coaching is that the machines are not being used to their greatest advantage. To me, I'm going to focus this first part of the session of getting the best out of these bungee systems and actually having a look at what the problem has been with the build-up of our scrum. So if you imagine this side of the head can represent a sled, or it can represent a machine that's been loaded up with lots of bungees. And I think I'd like to see loads of bungees on how much we can push in, but having too many up and down creates this false support position that doesn't encourage really good body positions. So if that's a sled or a machine that's locked up, we can start to get into some bad habits if we're not really putting focus on our body position by having this support position. And lots of the focus has been on your body profile. So if I'm supported by this system and I get into what I think is a perfect body position with my back square, my head driving up and my feet parallel, I can hold that body position. I'm up on my toes because I'm being supported by the scrummage machine. My legs are flush, I've got a good parallel body position, and I'm ready to scrummage. If I come out of that, but that's false. It don't happen like that. In any part of a live scrum, in any part of the discipline of scrummaging, it's not going to support you. It's not going to allow you to get into those body positions safely. And what tends to happen is that we get a hinge effect. And if I just get to my distance, back to that body position, and I'll put this white line down, and that's going to be the hinging area. And that hinging area is either where we lose our foot positions or we all hinge down because we can't support our body weight. So if I'm in this position with my feet parallel and my legs in line, my toes pointing in line, it's very hard for me to get the best part of my body weight in front of my knees to take on this challenge. For me to be able to do that, to go into this challenge, I'm going to need my hooker to have his non-striking leg breaking it back. And generally, if you look at video, in match video, of even the British Lions and the top international teams, if you look down the channel, you'll see this non-striking leg sticking in the channel, and you'll see your props all with flush legs and flush legs all on this pivot point. And what happens is that on the engagement where we don't have to bind, the hooker takes his non-striking leg back, which is supporting. He steps back to the hinge area, and then we've got 3 sets of legs all on the same point, taking on this challenge, and that challenge usually ends up by falling onto the floor, because the pressures we're receiving here and the pressures and tendency to either go down or go up are heightened by having our legs all at one single pivot point. Okay, so let's have a look how we're going to adapt and take that pivot point away from it. If we now think about our setup, and we're going to change our foot positions, and everybody in the scrum, including the back 5, are also going to adopt the same principles that I'm going to talk about now. And really, it's about getting a body profile and a foot position and attention to detail right through the body from toes to head of taking on a challenge. So this machine's set up slightly different. We've got hardly any bungees up and down, so I'm really going to have to see it. What I'm interested in is how many bungees can I get on here. Even without the hydraulic machine pushing and snap shoving against you, or measuring your drive, allowing you to drive and then pushing you back, there's a challenge to meet in this first part of the engagement. Can we independently have the strength and body design to take on that challenge and increase the load going forward? Keep this vulnerable up and down, control the front row, not lose our foot positions, not have a pivot point, but take on more pressure going forward. So let's just have a look how we're going to try and do that. So my distance is coming away from this machine. I'm going to incorporate we'll get a call from the head coach here of the referee's call, so I'll incorporate the new calls and requirements to bind. But the difference is now I'm not going to flush my feet. I'm going to get a separation between heel and toe to take on this challenge, to increase to take on the forward weight but not fall down and not go up. So I'm getting a separation. So now I've got support. I can get a lot of my body weight in front because this is a separation. As soon as I come back to that square position, I'm struggling for balance. If I overextend it, then I'm in trouble. I'm going to be long on this leg, and eventually I'm going to have to step back. So it's a fine adjustment between heel and toe. So when you practice this, practice it time and time again so that it comes without thinking. You enter into the scrum, you're taking up your positions, you take up your binds, and you know that you've practiced it enough that you've got a heel to toe separation. So traditionally I'll come along to rugby clubs and do these type of clinics, and their roller machine is gathering dust in the corner and it's not being used. Pull it out, set up the bungee systems, and practice your own individual profiles. The same way as the backs are practicing passing to be able to do a passing move, you've got to be able to practice profiles to be able for me to build a scrummage. So there's no excuse. Set these machines up and let's meet the challenge. Okay, so what I'm going to do is get my distance right. I've got to take that bind. I've got my heel to toe, and importantly I start to splay my toes out. And the reason being that will open up my hips and access my core stability, access that real strength. So my feet are going to be the anchors, my power muscles, my quads and my glutes are going to drive through this solid part of my body as I lock it up, and then I'm going to develop certain shapes, whether I'm a tight head or whether I'm a loose head. There'll be certain attention to detail in the upper body which we'll focus on in different video sessions. But splay the feet out so I've accessed my core stability. I've got my heel to toe. Alid, if you give me my call.
Crouch.
Crouch.
Bind.
Bind.
Set.
Okay, I need to adjust that and get a little bit closer. And obviously the challenge, I didn't go down. It's very vulnerable to go down, very vulnerable to go up, but there's not enough weight on here. So if I had a bungee, so I had a couple of pounds. So when you get your bungee machine out, if you're doing 6 bungees this week, in 6 weeks' time we want to be doing twice as many. We want to be doing 12. It's all about how many pounds force can we drive forward but still control that head. So heel to toe, slightly closer this time. And now I'm really starting to pull my knees in, open up this core strength, and pushing my weight against my feet. And as my feet are splayed out, it's a bit of a dovetail effect. I've really got pressure both ways because I'm focusing my weight down into my feet and gripping the ground. And if I get good flexibility, you see I keep a lot of foot on the ground as opposed to being back square and coming up on my toes and then losing that grip. So losing that grip because you haven't got splayed feet, coming in a line on a pivot point is all of the problems why we've been seeing these packs go down. So regardless of the pre-arm bind, if we don't address this problem, we're still going to end up in the same place. So again, attention to detail, load it up. I put the weight into my feet. My feet. I'm looking for the call. Crouch.
Bind. Set.
Squeeze! And I call a squeeze. And now I'm still hitting that challenge. I need to put some more bungees on. How many bungees can I do? Set a club challenge. See how many bungees you can do. There's only 2 or 3 bungees stopping it going up and down. But how many can you push without losing your feet? Who's the strongest in the club? These are the things, and if everybody practices that, the component that we're now building with the scrum is far more efficient. Just like all of the passing drills, you do a better move if you've all practiced your passing. Let's practice these profiles. I'm just going to put another bungee on in this demonstration. Again, I'm coming in, I lock, and I'm really finding that body position. I'm isolating my stomach now, my hips. I'm putting the weight down into my toes, and as a tight head, I'm going to look to start to complete this equation. I'm starting to get some real muscle attention in my upper body. And the shape that I'm thinking in my mind is about using my lats. It's like a lat spread almost. That's the attention. So my lats and my shoulder muscles are going to grab and contain this cornerstone of the scrum. If I was this side of the scrum, obviously the outside legs up again, heel to toe, splay it. I bring the attention in. And now I'm thinking of most muscular. It's all in my shoulders. I'm going to perfect some binds where I come around and take that bind and keep the elbow high so it's nice and positive. But this shape is a most muscular. It's about the attention, finishing off the equation with that attention this side, and then finishing off the equation this side with that wide lat spread where I'm going to control this side of the scrum. The hooker is again going to come in with this heel to toe aspect. He's going to narrow slightly. He's not going to be as wide on shoulder width. He'll narrow, but he'll still keep the heel to toe. So we've all got our back leg in a line, and we've got a heel to toe with our front leg. And then the hooker can load up in the same way, and he's going to come into this scrummage where he can drive off 2 legs, meet the challenge, free up the weight, strike the ball, and then come back into a pushing position. So we're looking after the safety of our hooker on that period where he's got to come out and strike the ball. The binds that we'll perfect as we build the front row will be all focused on stopping that separation of the tight head away from the hooker, and we've seen that time and time again in last year's footage where even the international players were getting tore away from their hookers. A lot of it was to do with this foundation, but a lot of it is the focus of bind. As we build the front row, and the video progresses, we'll talk about the binds, of what height they come, why are we putting focus on the tightness across the shoulders. We're doing that because of certain information that the hydraulic machine will give us. And then in the same aspect, the binds, where does the loose head come? Does he keep his shoulder detached or hidden? The reasons why, and then the reaction from the hydraulic machine. So this start of these videos are really putting some detailed focus into what this scrummaging is about, so that we can combine our efforts as coaches and players and interpretation from the referees to create a very sound and solid scrum.
Coach, bind, set, squeeze.
That's it. First two that can remember it. Come on, they got to be back row. So stop there now. There's just your mistake I'm picking up on first of all. So your outside leg was great. You was back on there, but just traditionally, because you're used to it, you came straight back there. So what happens now when you come down to that hit? There's no leg left, and then you're going to step in and you're fishing about for a position. So this is, because we're doing this nice and slow, this is an opportunity just to get it right. And what everybody's doing is kind of that. Watch when I do my heels to toe. I know the importance of this heel to toe, because I know that if I go bang, bang, and they've got a good angle, too much, that's not it, too flat, and that's not it, and both of you are a bit too flat. Get your heels in, and then just drop your knees in slightly and open up this and go into that position. If your knees stay out, you've got no core access. If your knees come in, it tightens all of this up. So I'm really pushing on the outside of my legs, so I can move this way now, where if I was like that and moving, I haven't got the strength or the coordination coming through. So come in, very precise, get into that crouch, take that bind, and then it's really easy to bang in there.
Coach, bind, set.
That's it. Still a little bit too far away. So lads, the attention in this lower body. So some of you are losing, and when you come extended, everything goes flat. The attention in your muscles get lost, and then you're going down. So even with the change of feet, we're still seeing the head go down. So you've got to have more confidence in keeping this loaded, and then just not giving it up. For the moment that I step into my scrum challenge, my abs are absolutely loaded until I'm... You've got to stay loaded all the time. And if you extend and then give up your lower abs, that's when you're just going to flop, and when it's dangerous. Get a little bit closer. Get a little bit of attention into it and a bit of force, and bang, bring it onto you, and then really force into it. But I've got something left. I've got something left to punch again. I'm not flat out like this. There's something left in my knees. I'm confident to come in and lower and then snap up. So being able to lower and snap up, do all of that, that's the attention. And if it's not familiar about it, you won't get that control in there. So and it's only repetition. I can do it because I've done it time and time again.
You've got to make sure the referees are looking a bit closer this season. You don't really bind into the player that far. You want to go as tight as possible. Then when you're hitting the player itself in a strong position. If you're doing that, you're accepting the hit. You're bringing him to you. It means that he's getting underneath you as a tight head. And as Luke said, he's getting dominant, he's above you. Just make sure you get a bit tighter to it, a bit closer to it, and have the initial snap into it. With a squeeze. That's it. Crouch. Bind. Set.
That's it. Drive through it now. Have the confidence to drive through that challenge. That's really good. Much better.
Crouch. Bind. Set.
That's it. This is it. That's what I want. Bit of punch. Feet in. Both feet splayed. Come up a little bit up on his toes for my liking, but he tacked it. That was really good pressure. So we're focusing now, feet. We're focusing on this. We're focusing on a thing. And most of you, other than the hits that you've done, the differences with them is that they've thought about the upper body. So you complete the equation now. Bang, bang. Think of your body. Am I most wide, or am I in this position? If you're in this position, your shoulders don't don't rock. You're attacking as a loose head or a hooker. And if you're a tight head or a second row, it's most wide. You're not being manipulated. Everything's tight on top of this this profile. So complete the equation. Now bring your shoulders and body profile right up the top. Are you wide or are you narrow?
Crouch. Bind. Set.
Ah, lovely, lovely. So all he's done is measure that up. All he's done is measure it up and put it all together. That's good weight. That's good weight.
Crouch. Bind. Set.
Now it's coming. It's just totally different. You put that last bit of the equation on, bring your shoulders into it, punch through it, and now we're getting back to where we were last season.
Work together.
Okay, guys, so we've done a fair bit of repping now, getting our confidence in that separation of the feet, getting our core stability into this scrummaging, and we've been punching forward, and we've been increasing the weight on those bungees. So we're just going to add a few more bungees to it, just one on the inside, Alid. We're going to remain with this vulnerability in the head from both sides now, and we're just going to bring that front row together and focus a bit on these binds, remembering that we're trying to get away again from this hinge effect in the scrum. Okay, we really want to get away from that flush legs back. We want to get away from losing our footing or not having enough balance in front of us that we're going down or being compromised and pushed up. As soon as we've got that separation, we're independent. We don't need this hookers break leg forward and then stepping back and falling down. We're all got the separation, so we're all independent. When in the next couple of videos, when we build the back five, we will be giving focus to the angle that the flankers push. We'll give in special focus to the particular binds in the second row, all to enhance this front row build up. So when we do this front row build up, the back five is just about enhancing it. And we put great focus on this because the machine, the Scrum Zone machine, has given us information. It's given us a total shove. It's given us a total what can you hold in a snap shove. It's given what weight can you exceed, how far can you drive it, and then what can you lock up. Now when we break it down to the scrum front rows contribution, that consists of 2/3 of our total shove is coming from the front row. So everything needs to be enhanced. So if we look at some of the videos from last year where props and things are being separated, and we know that that's 2/3 of our shove, we know by the techniques that we use against this, if we get tight binds on top of this foundation, the 2/3 of our shove increases. If we get loose binds and we tend to scrummage independently as a front row, the performance against the machine drops down. And that translates this whole, although it's a mechanical machine, it doesn't cross the line that it doesn't translate. If we can push more, we're more effective on the field, and so these techniques translate. So let's have a look at some of the bind formats. First thing that we're going to start talking about is the distance away. If we start not measuring back from this distance and we're perfecting all of this technique, but we haven't got the right distance, then a lot of this preparation ain't going to be right. What we do want is to be set before everybody else. We want to have our measurements right. We want to appease the referee because we're asking for the mark. We're stepping back to the distance, and then if there's any nonsense from the other side, the penalty is going to go against us. So we're going to be absolutely on the interpretation of the lawmakers. We're going to ask for a distance. We anticipate that after the call to set, that we'll be able to set, and there'll be no forward motion until the ball comes in. So there won't be a set and then chasing your feet and then making the scrum stable. We anticipate that there's going to be a penalty at that point. If the interpretation obviously changes, as coaches and players, we're going to adapt. But we're kind of hoping that from that set position, the referee won't look for any forward drive. He'll look for a squeeze to gather the strength. The ball will come in, we can strike and get quick channel one ball, and then we can react with our reaction as the ball comes in. So all of our perfection of these techniques and the squeeze and the ability to push more will then drive and secure that ball, rather than drive the scrimmage and make it a mess before the balls come in. So that's our expectation from these new law changes. So if I'm going to get my position right, so I can take on that challenge, I need my guy to mark it. So as the hooker is going to say, please sir, where's the mark? The referee will give the mark, and then he'll physically come in, mark it, and get a measurement that steps back, that his non-striking leg comes in, and his striking leg comes in. He'll strike a straight line between heel and toe. He splays his toes out so that he can get these hips into it, and he takes up that position ready for me to secure a bind. So take your mark off, measure back, non-striking leg, striking leg forward, non-striking leg back. He splayed his toes, and he starts to get that dish in the back, and his arms are coming up. So I'm the tight head in first. So there's a lot of question about this, but based on the machine's information, we want to have the tight head coming in first with a high and secure bind. Some of the things that happened last year, you would have seen low and secondary binds. So can I have a loose head come in and just come with a bind across there? We've seen binds like this and tight heads coming in with a reverse grip. If we can just get a shot of that with the video, with reverse grips or even grips over the top, but there was a lot of airspace between here, and the binds were very loose. Go on the top of my shoulder, loose here, and tight heads were squaring themselves up with these poor level legs, and then the effect was that he was getting ripped away and pulled away from his tight head. So this gap between here got compromised because of the loose bind and not the proximity to the tight head. I'm coming in, and the first thing is that I come in with my heel to toe, and there it is. I'm striking my heel to toe, and my knee is just on the outside, but I'm supporting this striking leg. So when he does strike for the ball, my leg is here. I'm not out on the outside of him. He's striking for the ball, and the second row coming through. We're also going to talk about the binds in the second row to prevent this right-hand second row coming through and disrupting this this angle and this coming together of the tight head and the hooker. Remember, that's 2/3 of our shove. We don't want a second row coming in and compromising out. We don't want the flanker pushing the backside out, second row coming through and losing my bind and the hooker being piled away. So we can come in nice and tight. We're going to open the door and let second rows come in. We're going to close in, but my bind's coming up high and tight. Even with the modern jerseys, I can use a technique of getting my thumb into the piece of cloth, and I lock in nice and tight. I'm looking for the hooker to secure the square of the body, and then I'm pinching my shoulder out. Now I've not compromised my body position whatsoever, and then on the call we can, if you give us a call.
Crouch, bind, set.
And then we're ready to set, and we both come in. Break. We never lost our feet. Our feet were in a perfect position to support our body profile, and we were immediately in a position to take on a challenge. Squeeze into the dip, into the hole, really pull that together. It's challenging the squeezes as well as being reserved, ready for our drive. We see the flash of the ball come in, now 2, 3, 4, or now and drive again will be the cadence that we're looking for. It's on the square, the shoulders, absolutely. There's a rear leg and there's a front leg. There's no single pivot point. They're both independent. They can both get their torso in front of their weight for that sat position, and then sink into this profile, supporting each other as tight as they possibly can across the shoulders, because we know that this is 2/3 of our shove. Okay, so the loose head's coming in, and the loose head's not going to pop the shoulder here. You can see that we've got the tight head here, creating a nice square tight corner. That's where they're going to restrict the loose head. These becomes the cornerstone of the scrum. The loose head's got to challenge and take on this powerful side of his body. The hooker's going to be contained here with the pressure after he struck the ball with his shoulder coming through. And then the tight head is going to have a restricted view where he's going to be challenged to come in here and be retained. If it gets a separation and that hole becomes too big, then tight heads can come through and really compromise that position. So again, I've seen a lot of this last season. Flush legs, loose heads coming in first and separating the shoulder, and and leaving a big gap, and I really don't know why that was being coached that way. So what I want to do, there's a nice high bind here, so I can come in nice and low. I still got an early bind, my arm's really close to the back of his body, and I've got my heel to toe, and my shoulder remains under, and we keep this window restrictive to contain the attack from the tight head. So on your call.
Crouch, bind, set,
Squeeze! Do that scrum. I think you measured back just a little bit too far there.
Yeah.
So come back, remember we're going to take up that challenge. This is about how many bungees can you take. So tight head, get that hit, nice and secure, get your knee on the outside, get this leg up a little bit, and then separate by heel to toe. So we just want to bring this leg forward a bit. Okay, Lucy comes in. If we can just get a shot of the video to the back bind, have a look at the formations of the feet. Non-striking legs back, there's a bit of a crisscross pillar of strength here. The striking legs forward so he can release the weight off. He can work on the hip on two legs, then he can release the weight off and strike. We've got a heel to toe effect working on both legs. We've got a heel to toe, and most importantly we've got this knit knot formation across here, which is high and keeping this nice and tight. 2/3 of our shove, of our total performance, comes from the front row. Our second row formations will be to enhance this. Our angle and drive and formations of our flankers will be enhance this. Our control from the number 8 will be to keep the control of the whole scrum and the cadence accordingly. So this is a lovely setup. Let's get into our call.
Yeah. Coach, bind, set, squeeze! Good.
Break! Here we go. The first part of this video completed, and the first build up of the front row. We got much more to layer in. We got lots of critiques and perfection to that, and there's still a lot more to that first element that we can layer in. But it's about getting the foundations right. It's about coordinating them with the new law changes, and it's about really putting some specificity and effort from the players, that we get the three elements of our game coming together: refereeing, coaching and playing. It's been suggested by some people to me that this separation and grip that we need on the ground is not needed at the surfaces at the higher levels. I don't agree with that. Even whether it's a clean surface or an artificial grass surface, the principles of gripping with your feet with the heel to toe, the principles of being able to support yourself with the right extension, and all come in as factors. So I don't agree with the fact that just because the surface is right, we can now come up with flush legs, not supporting ourselves, with a hooker breaking back, stepping back into these pivot points and not end up on the ground. I don't accept it. Mechanically and performance-wise, against something that measures and drives against you, says that it doesn't work. Okay, so boys, thanks for that session, and hopefully we'll do a few more and complete this whole solution of a scrum. Okay, welcome back to one of the major parts of this series of video-based clinics. We're going to build on the little breakout videos that you've seen already and the major part 1 of the series. This is going to now build the full pack up. We're going to emphasize some crucial areas that we think are important, and we're also going to then test and measure this scrum under a series of performance evaluated pushes by the scrummage machine. So what we're going to do is, let's get straight back to where we were with the front row. So measure off, come back, heel to toe, take those binds. We've got those high binds, we've got this knitting effect here. We know the focus and the importance of this top bind. We've measured these front rows, and that's 2/3 of a performance. Later when you see the machine pushing back, if we just put the front row to do the sequences that we're going to put the whole pack under, 2/3 of the performance could be attributed just to the front row. So it's about enhancing his performance. It's not about them getting detached because of poor bindings. It's about keeping this strong, them working together under pressure, especially when he's required to work off one leg for the short period of time where he strikes the ball, and then he gets his foot in back. And attacks from the opposition, it's about a collective effort to combat that manipulation attempt from the front rows. We don't want to get into wrestling. We want to get into collective pressure points that put the opposition under pressure, and we can strike 1, 2, 3, have ball to work, and play an expansive game. So this is our setup, and now we're going to focus on the binds of the second row. We know, and we're focusing just on our own ball at the moment, we know that he's going to strike for the ball for a period of time where his hip is going to come out and he's going to strike across. What we don't want is this right hand second row coming through and following that hip away. We don't want the backside of this prop being forced out because of the angle of drive of the flanker, and we certainly don't want this gap getting loose where the second row follows this hip and drives through. So what I'm going to promote in this process is that we have a right hand bind underneath the left hand second row. So if I could have a second row come across, and what we're looking to do, we're going to be focused on our heel to toe. Our inside legs are going to be up. We're going to be on shoulder width, and we're going to strike that straight line between heel and toe. So when we step together, our toe to toe comes in, and we adopt those foot positions. But in the bind, when we're looking at measuring this bind and keeping it nice and high and tight, we want to make sure that my shoulder is underneath. His shoulder over the top is going to prevent me coming through and disrupting. Now you will observe with lots of packs where they bind to the right hand side, and there's much more of a chance that I get detached and pressurize this crucial point on our own ball. So the underneath bind on the right hand side is a really good thing to promote to when you're building this stability in the pack. So the bind that I'm looking to do is a bit like the tight edge bind. I'm coming up nice and high, I'm taking a bit of jersey, I'm putting the jersey to the palm of my hand, he's securing off, and then we're measuring this out. And we measure out, I'm really tight on the back of my tricep, I'm right underneath his bicep, and the distance that we measure out is determined by the width and size of our hooker. So we may need to come out wider, we've got to be comfortable in there. We don't want to be too tight and under here and be uncomfortable. We also are going to get these props to open up the door. Now they can either move out on the side. I don't want them to move these feet. I can anticipate a little bit of adjustment here because I think he's a little bit tight there. But he can either pull his out to the side to let the second rows come in, or he can drop his hip back, and if he drops his hip back like that, there's a great opportunity then for the second row to come in and take a really good bind and introduce himself to the front row. So can I have the second rows just bind, open the doors, and let's get a back five built. So measure back, tight it in first, nice lock off the binds. Lots of communication in this process. Nice solid binds. Focus on the heel to toe. There'll be a bit of adjustment. Nip up to him, down onto the knee. Open the doors, close the doors. Number 8 now is going to hold shorts and enable that when we come into the sat position, you'll be able to support these backsides up and get them into a good position. We want to adjust these feet so that there's a heel to toe. We want to just bring him back. he can afford to do that because the number 8's going to pick him up. It's been tested on the machine that the number 8's contributing factor to this scrum as it goes down is very small, if anything. So he's far better to be this fishtail at the back of the scrum and force the momentum down. He can just check for any tactical awareness before he enters into the scrum. He's far better at this fishtail at the back than getting his head lost in here and then disrupting this focus. By holding them up, setting them in and coming in after, it's far more stability. His range of effort through those two bodies, by the time that weight comes in, it dissipates. We're now going to put the flankers on the outside. The flankers on the outside become this other part of a 4-seated bench for the front row to sit on. I'm again looking at my heel to toe. I will take a bind onto the second row, come down onto the knee, and then I'm just searching up from the bottom of his knee to that little niche under the cheek of his buttock, where I can then load up and get ready to hit in. Now notice I'm picking out an angle. I'm not flush. That angle is determined by a conversation between prop and flanker. When you've got that angle right, this guy is going to feel that weight coming through him. And that's what we're trying to focus on. Not by being individuals in the scrum. It's all about enhancing 2/3 of our performance, which is the front row. So can I have two flankers on the outside? Think about your heel to toe. Get that angle. Take your bind on here, heel to toe, drop down onto your knee. Search that knee down from the bottom under number 8 in at the back, ready to support those back sides. And then we're just going to take this scrum in nice and softly into the machine. Okay, so up and take your bind, bind and set. Okay, break up. Lots of critiques and confidence in our feet. Slightly wider on the angle, so start talking to your flanker. Find that sweet spot from him. Second rows, be confident with that heel to toe, get a little bit closer. Remember, this number 8's going to really kind of support you and get you loaded in there, so you can afford to drop these legs back to heel to toe. Don't be tempted to over expand on it. You drop down. By the time you come in as a second row, you're too long on this leg's up here, and you step back. We step back to a problem, which is that hinge effect. So we want heel to toe, want to be loaded, and we want to arrive into the scrum. Any adjustment is to go forward slightly and maintain that heel to toe, or go back and find that heel to toe. Ready for the squeeze, flash of the ball comes in, bang, and we're driving up. Okay, let's walk back 5 meters and then come back in. We'll have head coach's call, and we'll start to put a couple of scrums down with a bit of intent. Tight head in first, nice high bind. Adjust your feet, leave the gaps for the seconds. Open the doors, seconds in. Number 8, load up them backsides. Angles on the angle. Okay, referee's call.
Coach, bind, set.
Squeeze! Break, up you come. Tight head in first, nice high bind. Adjust your feet, leave the gaps for the seconds. Open the doors, seconds in. Number 8, load up them backsides. Angles on the angle. Okay, referee's call.
Coach, bind, set.
Squeeze! Break, up you come. Okay, so we can afford to pinch this forward a bit. We lost our feet, we left our feet behind. The critiques that we want, if we've gone forward, remember, heel to toe, bang, heel to toe, bang, heel to toe. Let's adjust up as you're powering through. There's a lot of bungees on here, so you're taking up a lot of that distance and we're putting it under pressure. So we can afford to come forward, we can afford to be more confident, and we can chase our feet when we're successful. We can rescue our feet when we're up against a lot of pressure, which we're going to put against you shortly. So let's start to build it. And obviously the calls and the coordination is a really important part. So let's just have a look at this. Let's form up a big circle. We worked on this last season when we were delivering proper scrummage sessions. The circle was unbelievably, even though we were working off the old laws. Now we can integrate this this timing and the principles that we've worked on, and it's going to be a good season for us. The new laws are going to really allow this specificity into our body positions and timings to really pay dividends. So these timing circles become really important. Loosen your bind so that it's a long arm bind like this, so you can get some foot positions. So it's just a long arm bind like this. And remember, we're going to get head coach to do a call for us. So head coach will give us the referee calls, but let's just get to heel to toe. Get that foot forward. And I just want you to get into that crouch position, and when we go through the calls, we're going to crouch and the bind comes up. When I see the strike from the hooker, I'm going to put the ball on the floor, and we know what that is. That's now 2, 3, 4, and I want to see the whole circle come in. Okay, so we're getting the squeeze, and we come up, and the ball comes in, and now 2, 3, 4, and we get that time in. So I'll look for your tap. You need to give a slap on the back. Okay, on the referee's call.
Crouch, bind, set,
Squeeze! Now, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so we can call in a circle together. We're not going to perform there in a scrum together. There's no sharpness, there's no intent. And our voice and our attitude in our voice can bring our body to attention. Squeeze! You know, we're down, we're deep, we've loaded our core, we're gripping with our feet, and we're ready in anticipation of sight of the ball. The timing of the delivery is something that we've dealt in another video, and so that coordination for that ball coming to the hookers is taken care of. What we need to do is have a call of the sight of the ball coming in that can be instigated by the loose head prop, but it needs to be a collective sight from everybody else. We should all react at the same time. As soon as you see the ball tap on the floor, it's that now and the 2, 3, 4.
crouch, bind, set,
Squeeze! Now, 2, 3, 4.
Lovely. Now we've got it. Let's really bring this circle together. So we're building on that mental recognition of those calls. So the 2, 3, 4 is going from heel to toe to 2, 3, 4. I want to see real precision in your foot as you come forward. Don't just shuffle in. If you think of what we're building on the scrummage, where we've all got the inside leg back, outside leg up, we've got it in the front rows in the props, we've got it in the second rows, and we've got it in the flankers. So if on our real squeeze down, our first movement is all on the inside shoulder, and then off inside shoulder, we've got a spine of coordination right up the scrum. Dip, and in that heel to toe, and boom, 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 boom. And we coordinate. Precision, quickness, accuracy. Get out and play some football. Okay.
crouch, bind, set,
Squeeze! Now, 2, 3, 4.
Good. Let's put it on the machine then. Okay, guys, we've really got that timing right now. We're more confident with those body positions. We're going to start to put this engagement down on the squeeze. We'll get the feed from Alid for the scrummage here, in the absence of scrum half not being here. And we're going to see what our pressure is on the squeeze, and we're going to try and see what our pressure is on the reaction before we get a nice little drive going. So I'm going to drop back to operating the machine. Alid's in charge of delivering the session here now, so let him remind you of the setup. He'll give you the calls, and I'll operate the hydraulic machine against you. Okay, lads, when you're ready.
bind, stick position, bind,
Open them doors, make sure that we've got a nice window for the second rows to come in. Support from the number 8, nice angles, negotiated angles from the flankers, and let's get into this sequence.
crouch, bind, set,
Squeeze! Now, 2, 3, 4.
Break, break, and up you come.
good stuff.
Okay, and again. But the calls were like the ball came in and there was no now. Remember, this is the sight of the ball, so the loose flanker and tight end this side can call it, but there's nothing stopping everybody call it. You should be looking forward and see the ball come in. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, think about it. The now is on your strike. So hopefully, the flash of the ball, you're getting a now and a drive as you're striking. So, okay, I'm measuring this hit. It's around about 1,200 pounds at the moment. Let's try and get the snap.
Stay with me, right?
Coach. Bind. Set.
Oh, that's a good hit. Keep it up. And drive, 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 drive. Lock and hold the weight. Lock and hold the weight. Lock, 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 lock and hold, 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 lock and hold. Break.
Good work.
Okay. Okay, I'm measuring this hit. It's around about 1,200 pounds at the moment. Let's try and get the snap.
Stay with me, right?
Coach. Bind. Set.
Oh, that's a good hit. Keep it up. And drive, 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 drive. Lock and hold the weight. Lock and hold the weight. Lock, 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 lock and hold, 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 lock and hold. Break.
Good work.
Okay, so let's just give you some feedback. We've got a constant weight of 1,000 pounds after the hit. There's a flash up of the dial to 1,500 pounds. So that surge as you come into the squeeze, there's a lot of pressure here. And this has been that contentious point with the hinge effect coming down. We can now look at real pressures that are involved in this hydraulic scrummage machine. Okay, so that engagement and collision is up to 1,500 pounds of weight that you've got to contest with. Then there's a hold weight of 1,000 pounds, and then you're driving forward with force. I then put the scrummage machine back against you, and it got beyond 2,000 pounds before you got out of any shape. So you're able to cope with a squeeze and a constant weight of over 2,000 pounds against you. And that's testament to the work that we done last year, and we picked up right away from that from last year. I think our best results last year were about 2,600, 2,700. So we're about 500-600 pounds. But you all know that if we critique with this, that we can add on 500-600 pounds really easy, because we done it last year. Okay, so this time I'm going to challenge it a little bit more. On this hit, I'm actually going to come after you a bit, so we're going to prepare the hydraulic machine to have a snap shove in there. So I'll put 1,500 pounds in there, so on the engagement you're going to receive 1,500 pounds. So you may need to adjust that heel to toe, and we're going to get the sequence, we're going to drive again, and then we're going to resist that weight. Let's do that rep, and then we can finish the session. Okay, so let's let the machine come out first. Remember, we're going to charge this machine up. Just relax a minute. I'm just going to put 1,500 pounds in here. Okay, ready? Here we go. Opposition's loaded. We're going to apply this 1,500 pounds.
Seconds. Nice white door. Perfect. Flankers.
Stay. We ready? Yeah. Coach. Bind. Set.
Please. Now. Keep going.
And lock and hold. Get into the pocket. Get into the pocket. Get into the pocket. Hold in. Hold in. Hold in. And break. So again, we've got a weight of 2,000 pounds constant. The observations and critiques would be that when we got into the lock position, we started to get an upright body position. That's not positive for this approach from the referees. And as players, we've got to have a responsibility to stay in the pocket. Be confident to stay in the pocket. Don't flatten up and let's see these front rows coming up. You know, take the weight on. You have the ability with these foot positions to stay in the pocket and hold it. And it's through bad habit that we say, oh, well, there's a lot of pressure coming on, I better try and stand up. Remember what we've built here, we can stay in that pocket, we can soak up that weight, and we can even generate a second shove, which we proved on the hydraulic machine that we're quite able to do that. Again, lads, thanks for the session, and hopefully these video series will help coaches and referees understand some of the detail that we're trying to promote here. Well done. Thanks. Okay guys, we're back at another part of the series of video clinic-based sessions, and it's a little bit of an episode breaking away from the two major parts of the series, but it's an important part. Through every stage that we're working on the scrummage machine, we need to also be putting that pressure and adjustment under a one-on-one live, a 3-on-3, an 8-on-8 live scenario. So we get our principles right on the mechanical machines, and then we test it through every stage of the build-up. It's important that we've got to be able to feel the adjustment. Some of the adjustments will be individualized to our own body shapes and muscular physique, and some of them are just about when we're good in pressure, we need to adjust our feet, and when we're put under pressure, we need to adjust our feet. So breaking away and giving a live kind of explanation of and feel of the techniques that we're doing is very, very important when trying to build stability in these scrums. Also, this little part that we're going to do is very good for bringing youngsters on. I know you're senior players and well versed in it, but indulge me at the moment because I'm going to talk about these foot positions, and it's a very good kind of delivery for young coaches working with young players. So let's just remind ourselves of what we're trying to create. We're trying to create a complete equation from toes to shoulders in this ability to push, and we're locking up our body and we're focusing on foot positions. So when we're introducing this to a young player and reminding ourselves, we can start to refer to a squat. And if we squat with our feet narrow and our feet parallel, and although we lock up our body position, if we try to do a deep seated squat, we get very congested in this position. And even if we widen, keeping our legs flush, it's still a congestion. You'll feel the bottom part of your core tighten up, and you get congested in that position. And we're not really accessing the core stability. However, if we point our toes out, and this is my point of where this advantage comes, we open up our hips, and even in that squat position, isolating my back, I've pointed my toes out, I've got my core now into it, I'm keeping my back in line, I've got that dish in my back, and I've got the attention in the top half of my body. I can come down into a nice deep squat, and I'm not feeling congested, and I can drive through. So we're taking the principles of this squat position and we're adapting it into our profile. Of course, in our profile, we need to have that support so that we don't get this hinge effect. And what we've said is we got a rule of thumb, which is striking a straight line between my toe and my heel to get that extension. Once I've got that extension, I can now get my weight across my body. I'm sticking to those principles of keeping my body in line, keeping the attention, working through the core stability. And if I get down into this position here, just hold myself, and if two of the lads can just bind up and just come in, and they'll take up my body position, you can see that I'm now in a perfect profile, working on two legs, ready to adjust forward into the heel or toe. Together here, I just want you to measure off and just get confident with those heels to toes, get the binds, and then get into this sat position. Okay, on head coach's calls.
Crouch, bind, set.
Squeeze.
Okay, break up. So we can see little shuffles. Now we can have a little bit more confidence with that. Get the gaps right, get that bind, and let's get into the squeeze and see if we can start to squeeze down and take up a bit of pressure. If we can get into this sweet spot And there is a sweet spot when you practice this little activity here and take up the weight. You find that there's a real sweet spot. We're trying to squeeze into it. We're looking for the sight of the ball, and then we react going forward.
Coach. 5, set, 3. Pick up.
Okay, let's have a threes. Just some threes together. Let's make up a 3. It's not. This is not about propping or arm techniques. Just make up some threes. Just want you to get the adjustment of the feet and feel that body profile under an engagement. On the head coach's call.
Ready? Coach. 5, set,
3.
Break, up you come. As you can see, there's lots of adjustments, and the video clinic based session that these are, hopefully the viewers can see and pick up all different adjustments and things that you may adopt into your sessions when you turn these principles into a proper delivered Scrum session. So I'm not going to go into the detail of that. I'll leave that for you to have a look at those body profiles. But for me, if I start to deliver a coaching session, I'm going to take my principles of explanation, demonstration, practice, correction, perfection to the next level and deliver a proper scrummage session and really iron out those. I want them to have confidence to get into that pocket, to have minor adjustments rather than this big step out and lose shape. I want them to really get confident that they can engage and get forward and pressurize into this nice sat position, ready to explode again. So hopefully this little short part gives you something to think about and provokes some thought and an exchange of knowledge.